welcome back to Helen's Kitchen. It's week 4 of quarantine and I hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to bring you guys a little bit of happiness and cheer, so I decided to show you guys how to make some brownies. I have a few tips and secrets that I can share with you guys, but this is very minimal ingredients. Everyone should kind of have. If you don't, you can always substitute a few things. So I hope that you are able to make this, and I hope you enjoy the video. You only need one bowl to do this and a pan. So I have a square pan and one large bowl to mix in, and that is all, and a whisk. And as far as the ingredients go, I will show you along the way, and I will also have the recipe ingredients listed at the end of the video. So the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need a stick of butter. I prefer unsalted because I can control the salt, but if you don't have unsalted butter, you can always use salted butter and just remove the salt from, just don't put in the salt in the recipe, that's later on. Okay, so first, what I like to do before I melt the butter, because that's what we need to do, I like to cut it into pieces. I like to cut it into a few pieces. This way I can, one, melts quickly in the microwave, and two, melts evenly. Because if you put just a whole stick of butter in it, half will melt, the other half won't, and then, you know, when it takes longer, and two, you might overcook the butter or it might splatter everywhere. It's very unpredictable in the microwave. So first we're gonna do that. We'll put this in the microwave and then we'll continue with the rest of this. And then I need to wash my hands. 30 seconds should be good. If you need a longer time, try to do 10-second intervals. This way it's not popping all over the place. And you can just let that sit until it's ready to be kneaded. Next, what we need to do is we need to mix a few ingredients inside the big bowl. So we'll start off with the wet. This way we can mix up the butter, and we'll be mixing up, there's a little bit of coconut oil. You can always use vegetable oil and some sugar. And this is like, instead of having, there's another method called the creaming method that I use with my cookies and my cakes. That helps it to get light and airy. Brownies don't need light and airy. You want fudgy, gooey, delicious brownies. Okay, so we have our stick of butter all melted. We want to pour that in the bowl. And then we want to also get our coconut oil. Now again, this is a tablespoon of coconut oil. You can always use vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever you feel that you have on hand. I like coconut oil and I have it. The coconut oil is solid right now, but it will melt with the hot water. It doesn't take much to melt. Like sometimes on a hot day, in the jar, it'll be liquid. So if you do this in like the middle of August and you don't have your air conditioning on really, really high, it will melt. It's happened to me before. So mix that so the coconut oil melts a little bit. And then what we have here is a cup and 1/8 or 2 tablespoons of sugar. Just regular white sugar. You can use superfine sugar. You can, you can probably use like a sugar substitute like Splenda. Haven't tried it because I know it bakes a little different, especially when you're trying to mix it a certain way. But if that's what you have on hand, and if you're diabetic or whatever, that maybe is probably the best for you. So you want to mix this for like a good minute. Because what's happening is that you're getting all the sugar kind of melted into it and integrating it in with the butter, and it'll also add a lot of air to it. So you want to mix that, and then we're gonna add our eggs and our vanilla next. So it's a little late, right? Good. Now we're gonna add our eggs, but I don't like adding the eggs directly into the bowl, only because you may get shards of egg in there. You don't want to do that. You also want to, when you're cracking your eggs, you want to crack them on the counter or, you know, a flat surface. So this way, you know, it doesn't push up shards into your eggs, which will also, you know, create little shards or whatever. And eggshells in your baked goods, it's not good. They don't bake out. They will not taste good. So, you know, just be careful with that. I mean, whenever using eggs, I always crack on a surface and I always put them in a separate bowl besides. And I know that creates another bowl for you to use, but it will be so much better than trying to fish out a little eggshell out of your batter afterwards. And if you do end up doing that, you may miss a little shard or a piece, and then somebody might choke, and we don't want that. So you're gonna crack it on the surface. Just put it in a small bowl. And then you add that to the sugar, and you want to mix this. Again, mix it very well until it's light in color. Meanwhile, I forgot my vanilla. This is 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Now, if you have imitation vanilla, or you know, you have another flavor that you might want to add to there. Some people like almond extract, but almond extract is very strong. So if you do have that and you're going to use that, very little. And if you don't have it, it's okay. It adds a little extra flavor, but it is not the end of the world. I promise you. Okay? So as soon as it gets light in color, and you'll see, I don't know if you can tell, but it's all mixed up and it is very pale. You want to get all your mixing in done now. And the reason why you want to do that is because when you add the flour creates gluten. You don't want it very cakey. You want gooey brownies, right? At least I do. If you want cakey and you mix the brownies up a little bit more, that's fine. Sometimes I want cakey brownies, but for the most part right now, I want chocolate. I want gooey brownies. This is what I want. You're gonna mix until it's very light. Take that off. And then we're gonna start adding our dry ingredients. Our dry ingredients include half a cup of cocoa, half a cup of flour, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And now remember what I said about the butter earlier. If you already had salted butter, do not add the salt. It will be salty. That is not good, especially for those with high blood pressure and everything else. Let's, you know, be safe. Okay? So we want to get the cocoa in there. I'm going to put the cocoa in there, which is very important. And the flour. And we also, and this is my super secret, go-to for most of my chocolate baked goods, cake, everything. I always add a 1/2 tablespoon or so of coffee granules. Now, if you have, you don't have coffee granules, you don't need it. But it gives it like coffee and chocolate. They just go oh so well together, and you have no idea what you're missing if you don't use it. But if you don't have it, I totally understand, and I don't want you going outside to try to go find some, because that is unnecessary. Maybe after everything is done, you can try that. But if you just have coffee, you can always add like some cold coffee. If you just like made some coffee in the morning and you have some left over, a tablespoon or so of that. But if you do, maybe add a little extra flour just to offset the moisture factor, because it might be a little bit too watery. But a tablespoon or so is not gonna change the world. So we're gonna do that. And instead of whisking, we're gonna fold this in. We don't wanna whisk because we did all the whisking that we needed earlier. And two, we just want it to combine. We don't wanna overmix, because if we overmix, then we will make more gluten and it will be gluey and have a bunch of holes in it. Like, have you ever mixed muffin batter for too long? That's just not a good idea. So you want to mix until just combine, and then after that we'll set it aside and we'll prepare our pan. And you know, I know most people, or they always tell you in a recipe to prepare a pan beforehand. You can do that, that's fine. I just have some extra tips I wanted to show you, so that's why we're doing it after. Oh, it looks so good and smells so good already. And once you see that it's mixed up and you don't have any dry spots, okay, do this very lightly. You do not want to use a heavy hand. You don't want to whip it. You want to very lightly do this. And these things help also with like that nice little crackle that's on the top, and it also helps with it like just being nice and gooey inside. And we really want that at least. Okay, so I'm gonna set this aside, and I'm going to show you some of the most important things to do. Now first, with like cakes and stuff, you want to flour. With brownies, you just want to grease your pan. So now I'm going to show you greasing your pan and other tips on how to prep to get your brownies in the oven. And the first thing you want to do is grease your pan. You can now use whatever oil you used earlier, your coconut oil, your canola oil, whatever oil you have. If you want to use butter, you can also use that. I'm going to use my coconut oil. So I'm going to get a tablespoon of this out. Okay, I'm going to wipe it on a clean paper towel. Okay, and you just want to grease your pan. Make sure you get the corners. Now, if you have a round pan, that is okay. Obviously, no real corners, but make sure you get in the bottom corners and you get the sides, okay? Very important, because that's where all of the goodness gets locked into, and then you're missing out on all the beautiful chocolate that's in there, okay? So once you got this greased, then you want to do something that's at least my tip on how to get the best brownies with no crusty corners. If you like crusty corners, you like that hard part of the brownie, fine, skip this. This is not for you. But if you want this, and you can also do this for cakes, and it's like my favorite thing when I figured this out. What you want to do is you'll need aluminum foil and a paper towel. And that is all. Aluminum foil, I have paper towels, and it does not matter what kind. It doesn't need to be heavy duty aluminum foil or anything. But what you're going to do is, okay, if I can get this open. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to make it the length of around your whole pan, the length of it. You can measure it if you want to. I just kind of eyeball it and try to figure it out. And because it doesn't matter if it's longer. It will matter if it's shorter, and I'll show you why. Okay, so I have a long piece, very long piece. When I say this is long, it is long. Okay, it has to be as long as your pan. That is all. It doesn't have to be longer. It doesn't have to be like 20 feet or anything like that. That is all. And then you also want to get a paper towel and make that the same length. Okay? Or just about. So you take your paper towel, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again, lengthwise. Okay? And you're going to wet this. Now you can spray it with water, you can run it under water. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run it under a little water. Wring it out. You want to wring it out, okay? And once you wring it out, it'll just be very lightly wet, or like, you know, like a wet rag or whatever. That's the, but you don't want it like dripping. That's the main part. You don't want it dripping, but you don't want it too dry either. And fold it up. I have a point. I'm going somewhere with this. You want to fold the aluminum foil around it, and you want it to be about the height of your pan. You know, you don't want it to, if it hangs above or below, but you don't want it too small where it's not going to be effective. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put it on the outside of your pan and fold it all the way around, okay? And then where the ends come up, you're going to just squish it together like, oh wow, that was perfect. Perfect size, okay? So you're gonna squish it. I have a good eyeball for this stuff. And you're gonna squish it all around, okay? Make sure it's very tight around your pan. Now the reason why I did that, after all of that, I'm gonna tell you the reason. This will make sure that there are no crusty corners and the top will be completely flat. You ever get domed cakes and the outside is like dark brown and crispy and you wish that it wasn't? You wish like you can get that fluffy cake or whatever all the way around and you don't have to cut the outsides or just, you know, accept that you have like crusty brown corners. You don't need to do that. You just need to do this. And because of the moisture of the towel and the insulation of the aluminum foil, it is gone. I promise you. And you can reuse this. I've reused them. I try to be very crafty and like conservative about some of the things I use, especially when it comes to paper towels and other things. I try to use dishcloths as much as I can, but you know, right now I'm kind of gotta throw everything away. So, yes, so what you want to do is you want to do that, and then we can put our brownies in the oven, and then we're done. So if I didn't mention, I don't think I mentioned earlier, your oven should be preheated to 350 degrees. That is all. Very basic, simple. You'll take and then you want to take your batter. Give them a little toss mix so it can lighten up a little bit. And this is a time when you can put in, if you want nuts in there, you want walnuts, you want chocolate chips. I'm actually going to add some chocolate chips. I have some here, so I'm going to do that. Some chocolate chunks from the chocolate chips that I made the other week. You know, I love chocolate, but you know, you gotta not have it all the time, I guess. Sometimes. Okay, so stir that in. Okay, very gently. You can also put some on the top if you would like to, but this will give it nice and gooey inside. So when you're done, just scrape that in your pan. Okay, and then you want to spread it out to the corners. Now, if you want to double this batter, you can double the batter if you want really thick brownies, or if you just want more, because I understand especially right now. I feel like everybody is just trying to have a little comfort food right now. A little, and if you have kids, you can make this with them. You can always have them help you, like, get out the ingredients, or maybe fold up that aluminum foil and stuff like that. These are fun things that they can do together. You guys can do together. This is very easy. There's no knives included, because I know some parents are very concerned about letting children cook because of the stove and because of knives and things like that. Those are the things that you can handle. They don't need to have that. But I have worked with children, and they can have some really good knife skills once they get a little bit older. You know, I wouldn't put, you know, chef's knife in a toddler's hand, but these are things that you can do with them. It's very simple, very easy. So we're gonna put this in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Test it, check it out. If you have, you know, a hotter oven or anything, you should have a oven thermometer. If you don't, after the whole thing is over, get one, because you don't know how hot your oven really is. So when a lot of people complain on like all recipes or Food Network or whatever that their stuff isn't getting done the way it's supposed to because of the recipe that they have, there are two problems with that. If you are measuring by cups, which we did today because that's the most easiest way to do it, but the most successful way to do these things is by weight. A lot of people don't have a scale. A lot of people don't have an oven thermometer. And these are the things that, for a lot of people, it are the reason why recipes go wrong, or they feel like they have to compensate, and they complain about it. But in the end, these are the kind of things that can happen. So we're gonna put this in the oven. I'm gonna stop talking. And we're going to bake this for 20 to 25 minutes. And when we're done, we're gonna have some delicious gooey brownies. Okay, can't wait. And there you have it. They're perfect. You see how they're nice and flat coming in there? All right, we're gonna cut out a slice right now. Now, there are a bunch of tools. I actually got this tool as like a brownie cutting tool. There are a lot of different ways where you can cut the brownie out to get like that perfect square. But listen, all I really care about is getting the chocolate in my face. You want to let it cool for just a little bit. You know, you can still eat them nice and warm and gooey. They will be warm in like 10 minutes still. So, you know, you don't want to burn your tongue, burn yourself. You know, I know it's hard. They smell delicious. But, you know, we don't want to hurt ourselves. So, you can use anything to cut these out. You can use a butter knife. Some people use a wet knife. That tends to help. I've done that before. You know, you don't want to use a serrated knife or a knife that has many little things that'll pull it up, because then you'll just get crumbles everywhere. You want a nice like cut. Okay, so you can cut it into 9 squares, you can cut it into no squares and just eat the whole thing, whatever you feel like. You can also you know, put a nice scoop of ice cream on there. Right. So once you're ready to like pull it out, you know, look at that. That is like, it's really thin, but so good and gooey and delicious. You can make it, like I said, you can make it thicker by using more batter. I'd probably add a little bit more to the time, maybe like 10 minutes or so. Check it when you are, before you take it out, give it a little jiggle. If it's jiggly in the middle, I don't know how else to describe it, but if it's jiggling, then don't do it, but you don't want it to be overcooked either. There's just like that sweet spot right in the middle. So if it's jiggling too much, just keep it in there. I would give it another 5 minutes and check it again. You know, because they are so gooey, toothpick tests do not work. It will always come out gooey, but you do want to make sure that's not like watery in the middle. So next time I can probably show you how to make the perfect cake pops, because that's my specialty. In the meantime, enjoy. Thank you. Bye.